President Trump appoints 3 controversial personalities to his cabinet, and the Washington establishment is losing its mind. I'm Rob on the right. Let's go take a look.
He's going to attempt to drain the swamp with this group of individuals, which means the fight that's coming back is massive. He's picking these people. Every one of them has an axe to grind. And there's a reason for that, because this is going to be the fight for the American. It's one thing to get in, it's another thing to actually make change. So he's smart in picking guys like Gaetz and guys because they're already flawed and they already have their issues, but he's coming for your job.
I tell you folks, the swamp isn't just draining, it's being turned on its head. Donald Trump isn't wasting any time making history. This week, he dropped 3 of the most boldest, controversial cabinet picks yet. RFK Jr. heading up Health and Human Services, Tulsi Gabbard as National Director of Intelligence, or I should say Director of National Intelligence, and Matt Gaetz as Attorney General. As I mentioned in the intro, RFK and Tulsi were recently Democrats. I don't even think we could call this the Republican Party anymore. Maybe we should start calling it the X Party. I'll bet Elon would love that. Anyways, before we dive in deeper, I'm trying to build this channel in order to reach more people, so I'd appreciate it if you guys take a moment to like this video and subscribe. Now, kicking things off with RFK Jr., let's take a quick look at what Trump posted over on X. I am thrilled to announce Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as the United States Secretary of Health and Human Services. For too long, Americans have been crushed by the industrial food complex and drug companies who have engaged in deception, misinformation, and disinformation when it comes to public health. Mr. Kennedy will restore these agencies to the traditions of gold standard scientific research and beacons of transparency to end the chronic disease epidemic and make America great and healthy again. This is Maha, baby, and the establishment is losing it. Top officials at the CDC and FDA are already threatening to resign. Thank you? I mean, that's the whole point. We're sick of you people. Now, everybody out of the pool. The media is also crying about RFK's lack of managerial experience.
There's really no good reason why Bobby Kennedy, RFK Jr., should be HHS Secretary. An advisor, a confidant, somebody who talks to the president and advises, but there's no managerial experience in his resume. There's nothing that says he is qualified to do this job that is in charge of the health of all of us, all these different lanes. If he has views and has insights around food sources, around vaccines, then those should be given in advisory roles.
Why?
Because...
Well, what were the qualifications of the previous ones?
Well, I think it's important to always remember that you put yourself... Say that again?
What were the management qualifications? I mean, Xavier Becerra...
I'm not talking about the previous. I'm looking forward.
But you're calling into question whether he could actually do this job. And I think it's
absolutely. I think America is now, and I think
it's important to discuss it, because Xavier Becerra was just a lawyer and a politician with no management experience.
So does two wrongs make a right?
Sylvia Burwell was a Walmart lobbyist. Donna Shalala was a university person. Look,
RFK Jr. is a nut.
Okay, so that's different than what you just said. You just said
he's a nut.
You know, it's starting to stink in here due to all the gaslighting. Do you guys really think that out-of-shape whack job Rachel Levine is qualified to govern health policy? Let's be real. Compared to the last few HHS secretaries, Kennedy is practically overqualified for the job.
Think about that.
Oh, and let's talk about one of my favorite picks, Tulsi Gabbard. She's ruffling even more feathers. The media is trying to paint her as some kind of pro-war Russian asset, which is completely laughable.
Tulsi Gabbard's nomination, as much as she says that she's an anti-war person, she's not.
Yeah.
She supports very pro-war individuals.
Including in Syria.
And let's be very clear,
Yeah.
a Tulsi Gabbard nomination is a pro-war nomination globally. Point blank, period.
Tulsi Gabbard has taken actions and made statements over the past several years that really raise serious questions about her common sense, her judgment, as well as her political sympathies.
This is someone who, is known to be a white supremacist.
Let's not forget, on top of her military service for this country, Tulsi's one of the few politicians who spoke out about the many deep state-funded biolabs in Ukraine, something the establishment desperately tried to throw down a black hole. Roll the clip.
Here are the undeniable facts. There are 25 to 30 US-funded biolabs in Ukraine. According to the US government, these biolabs are conducting research on dangerous pathogens. Ukraine is in an active war zone with widespread bombing, artillery, and shelling, and these facilities, even in the best of circumstances, could easily be compromised and release these deadly pathogens. These labs need to be shut down immediately, and the pathogens that they hold need to be destroyed.
Her appointment is a signal, my friends. The age of transparency has finally arrived, and it's not stopping at the HSS or DNI. You know, it'd be totally crazy if Tulsi runs as a Republican in the next election and becomes the first female president. Dems would completely self-destruct.
Is it safe to say that based off of your comments, you're suggesting that these women at these abortion rallies are ugly and overweight?
Yes.
What do you say to people who think that those comments are offensive?
Be offended.
Then there's good old Matt Gaetz. Of all things, Trump is putting him in charge of the Department of Justice. And once again, the bureaucrats are clutching their pearls.
The president is smart enough and his team is smart enough to know that Mr. Gaetz will never get confirmed by the Senate. Mr. Gaetz breaks things to break things, and then once he breaks it even more. And that is somebody who should not be the Attorney General of the United States. I can tell you, I'm not the only one out of 222 that we'll end up with that is happy that he is leaving this conference.
DOJ lawyers are already threatening to quit en masse. I mean, could Trump have picked anyone better? Gaetz is exactly the type of firebrand that is needed to clean house. The guy isn't afraid to call out corruption, and that is why the establishment fears him. Check this out.
On Epstein, Bill Barr is the one that needs to be called in to give sworn testimony on what happened there at Bureau of Prisons, because there's just no way that the story you're getting is the real story there.
And when it comes to how those raise money, I take no lecture on asking patriotic Americans to weigh in and contribute to this fight from those who would grovel and bend knee for the lobbyists and special interests who own our leadership, who have, boo all you want, who have hollowed out this town and have borrowed against the future of our future generations.
Voters expect us to have a fighting spirit. If we win this majority back in the House and we don't do what Senator Kennedy demanded, and that is to, get to the bottom of these investigations and deliver wins for our people, then shame on us. And I have a message for anybody that's looking to hire Tony Fauci to be the CEO of their pharmaceutical company or their university president. Don't plan on him being available for work too often.
Meanwhile, whispers are growing louder about who will replace FBI Director Christopher Wray. Rumor has it Trump is eyeing Kash Patel. And let me tell you, that would be epic. Kash has already said he'd shut down the FBI's Hoover building and reopen it as a museum of the deep state. You gotta see this.
The FBI's footprint has gotten so freaking big, and the biggest problem the FBI has come out of its intel shops. I'd break that component out of it. I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state. And I'd take the 7,000 employees that work in that building and send them across America to chase down criminals. Go be cops. You're cops. Go be cops. Go chase down murderers and drug dealers and violent offenders. What do you need 7,000 people there for? Same thing with DOJ. What are all these people doing here? Looking for their next government promotion, looking for their next fancy government title, looking for their parachute out of government. So while you're bringing in the right people, you also have to shrink government.
Now that's how you fix an agency that's gone rogue. Imagine 7,000 bureaucrats turned into actual law enforcement officers instead of paper-pushing seat warmers. I mean, seriously, get to work, people.
Days before January 6th, Donald Trump authorized 10,000 National Guardsmen and women. Multiple people testified to that, including me, in front of committees and grand juries under oath. But the mainstream media hid it, and the committee suppressed Tony Ornato's transcript. And it just came out, thanks to Molly Hemingway, corroborating everything we've been saying. Liz Cheney and Adam Schiff buried this exculpatory evidence of Donald Trump.
So at this point, you might be asking, what is the legacy media's response to all of this? Well, as to be expected, they're in total meltdown mode. MSNBC is painting RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard as extremists, while CNN can't decide whether to criticize Gaetz or panic about Kash. Meanwhile, viewership at both networks is tanking faster than Blockbuster in the Netflix era. MSNBC alone is down 55%, and CNN's not too far behind. Even Chris Cuomo is flailing over at News Nation, trying to rebrand himself as fair and balanced. Megyn Kelly called him out the other day, saying Cuomo is a chameleon who changes his belief to fit the room. And she's right. Play the clip.
I actually saw Chris Cuomo give a very good description of why people vote for Donald Trump, that they're hiring a guy to do a dirty job and they don't really care about his, moral mistakes and things like that. Do you think that people like that who leave CNN and then all of a sudden become more fair and balanced. Was it CNN that was influencing them and they were just kind of lying because they had to at the time? Or do you think that they are lying now just to try to get a bigger audience?
The latter. 100% it's the latter. Chris Cuomo is faking it because he wants an audience. Go back and look at any night on the Chris Cuomo show when it was on CNN. He's as left as they come. He comes from a party and a family of leftists. They're all leftists. Only now do his brother and Chris come out and try to flirt with the right because they both have careers that are in tatters. Chris Cuomo has about 4 viewers who watch him over on News Nation. And he's trying to increase his numbers because News Nation is trying to be palatable to both the left and the right. But trust me when I tell you, this guy can't stand Trump and he can't stand Trump supporters. And I don't care who he says he voted for or how he says he understands Trump supporters.
If you ask me, the media's credibility is completely evaporated. They spent years lying about Trump and his supporters, and no one's buying it anymore. The MAGA red wave isn't just about draining the swamp in DC, it's changing the political conversation nationwide. Hey, if you want to see all the other Trump picks, click on this video over here. Or check out this video where Trump snubs Mike Pompeo and Nikki Haley. He'll definitely put a smile on your face. And if not, see you around the campus.